Now let's just do one thing. Let's just understand the draft architecture and the draft functionality which a RAP application is also providing. Okay, so now first thing we would like to have is, so what is a draft? Okay. What is a draft? So I can say, for example, I do have a DB table, what we can call it as a persistence table, right? Persistent table. And here we are specifying some table which is containing my actual data. So for example, here I am saying that I would like to have something called slash DMO travel M, for example, which is containing my data for my travel application. So whenever a new record is getting created, this is where it is getting persisted. Okay. Now consider there is a user who is using your application, like some person is there who just started working on your application. He said, okay, I want to create something, and he entered XYZ information. Okay. Oh yeah. I guess 1, 2, 3. For example, he entered some random stuff and he just started working on that. In between, he realized that no, I want to have some sort of a detail, or I can say concrete information of the booking before I even start working on the travel. Or let's just say he was not sure on the pricing side, or he is not sure on the tenure, like okay, what will be the schedule like from when and when my travel will be starting and it will be ending. Okay, so now what he can do is, even though he entered certain stuff which we already know, just because he don't know certain information, he definitely cannot save this, because otherwise it will create a partial travel. Okay, first. And when we say a partial travel, it means it will be visible and it will be manageable by each and every other person. That's the main issue, right? Otherwise, I guess there is no issue in creating a partial entry. But making a partial data entry into the system is also not that good. That's the first thing. Okay, so I can say issue while a end user have partial information. This first. Second, and the main concrete reason why actually draft functionality is required is, for example, consider your a person is working on this, and at this particular point in time he want to enter I guess a very huge set of information for creating any sort of such business information, be it a travel, be it any other business relevant information. Due to XYZ reason, for example, in between while he was working, something else come up, or let's just consider a natural thing. So for example, there is a power outage. Okay, so whatever information he just entered would be gone, because even though he spent half an hour spending creating all this stuff, but just because he did not create it, or I can say just because he did not save this information onto the database, his information is gone. Okay, so the thing is, even though I can say due to some unforeseen reason, okay, just because he was not able to save his work, data is not persisted. So what if we can provide some sort of a I can say data storage which allows you, or I can say which allows the user to save the partial progress whatever he has made on the application. Okay, and that's where the functionality comes, or I can say it's called a draft functionality. Okay, and this draft functionality also internally saying is a table. Okay, so there is something called draft table as well, which stores your draft information. So there will be a draft table which will be storing your draft information. So for example, I can say Z your DMO underscore travel. So there can be a table which always keep a track on what all things are being worked upon on the screen. So whether there will be an explicit action required from the user in order for the draft information to be saved? No. Instead, while the person is progressing each and everything that he is feeding the form with, okay, those all the information will keep on updating on the draft table by a minor merge calls, or I can say minor backend update call, which are very tiny in the step. For example, if the person is updating one information, which is a travel ID, that will be saved instantly. If he is trying to update another information, that will also be saved instantly. But those all the things won't be saved in the actual database. So that is something that the person should not worry, but instead it would be stored in the draft table. Now, if we see in this direction, then the issue will be that we are maintaining two parallel database over here, and it means we are investing twice in the database storage. Correct. So from the cost effectiveness perspective, this is very costly. But if you see, draft is a temporary storage. Okay, draft will always be a temporary storage. It means whenever a person save whatever work he has done till the time he okay, I guess from the time he started. So once he saved, the draft entry will get vanished, or it will get cleared out, and the actual entry will be created with relevant information in the persistent table after the save sequence execution. Okay, so that's how it would be. So ultimately, draft table only contain the partial placeholders, or I can say the field which a user has entered. Once the person is saving those information, draft table will be cleared out and it will be stored in the persistent table. So you can say draft table is nothing but some sort of an intermediate or temporary storage. Okay. So now the thing is how we can do that, how we can um, generate such a draft functionality. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's just try to enrich our application with the draft functionality. So first, let's just make our application a full one. So I'll just say I will just close everything else that we had. Okay, and another thing, let's just also make this a full one. So I guess we removed the delete functionality, but we might need that, I guess, some point in time. So I'll just make it re-intact. Okay, now over here, I'll just close this. And now if you just go back over here, now what we'll want is that we want some sort of a draft functionality. So here we are specifying manage. Here we are specifying that the syntax check should be done strictly. And these 1 and 2 are nothing but some sort of a release version. So ideally, SAP framework is actually releasing the kind of strictness you want. So I guess currently there is only one. If they have already started release with the two, maybe we can also check. Yeah, that's good. I guess there is nothing called 3 for sure. Yeah, there is nothing called 3. So 1 or 2 are expected because it defined the strictness level. So strict 2 is the maximum strict. So for example, there would be some keyword list, there would be some prerequisite things that it would be considering while it comes to the strictness of the code, that okay, if this is there, then this all things should be there into the system. Otherwise, that particular I can say behaviors cannot be enriched. So there is a strictness. Ideally, it's advisable always to go with the maximum strictness. So in case of any sort of future upgrade, you will not observe any sort of discrepancy in your application's behavior. Okay. Now, so like we defined at the header layer, the manage and the strictness, same way, if you want a draft functionality to be enabled, you have to specify something called with draft. Now is the main thing that you should be understanding. So the moment we say that we are going to start with the draft functionality, you will start receiving multiple errors. Okay. Because for a draft thing to work, there are plenty of things, those are prerequisite. Okay. So if I'm enriching my application with draft, let's just try, I can say resolving each and every error. So here, if I just put the cursor, it says that if multiple markers, if with draft is used with the strict, there must be an explicit definition for a draft determine action prepare. So it means it says that like we had couple of actions, right? So create is an action, update is an action, and delete is also an action. So if you are saying that you want a draft functionality. So like these actions that you specified explicitly, please also do specify draft, determine, action, prepare. So I'll just copy it over from here and we'll paste this draft action. So you should be specifying this. So I'll just go over here and there won't be any double inverted comma. Just to highlight it to you, it just system specified that. So I will just say semicolon. Is one. Now let's just go back. There is another error. If with draft is used, then there must be an explicit draft action edit. So this is not a determine. This is instead saying draft action edit. So I'll just say draft action. And here you will be specifying that particular action over here. Okay, and if you there is there, then I want another draft action called activate. This is what it is saying. So I'll just say one more draft action. Okay. Next, if I just again go back, it's saying that there should be a draft action called discard as well. I'll just explain like what is that and what all. Okay, there is something called discard. So maybe we can say first edit of the draft should happen. Then I can say activate. I guess the sequence does not matter. I'm just defining it in some sort of a logical sequence. So at least it makes sense. Okay, so there is one. I'll just put a cursor and it says that I want one more action called resume. Okay, so I'll just say okay, I'll just put a cursor and now what does it say? That there is no draft persistence is specified those for this table. So you have to specify some sort of a draft persistency over here. Okay. Another thing is it says that you are specifying lock master, but there used to be a total E tag. So there, like we do have a E tag, which is a runtime, or I can say I used to have a E tag, which is something a field which is being stored at the database layer to check whether the information which a person, a user is changing is the latest or not. For that, there is a E tag. But when it comes to a draft, right, then there are, I can say multiple updates call going on to the system, right? So when I say a final record onto the database that never get updated, right? I guess till the time the person does not save it. But it does not mean that once a person start working on this till the time he does not save it, another person should be allowed to edit it. No, right? We need some sort of internal locking mechanism. And for that reason, there should be something called total E tag. The total E tag ideally pick the timestamp information from your draft table, and it allows you, I can say, maintaining concurrency at the time of editing. That if a person is having a draft open on his screen, another person should not be able to change anything. So here I'll just say last change it. Okay, so now as you can see, we do have very less amount of error. I'll just still put a cursor over here and it says that you have not specified any draft persistency. So you have to specify some sort of a draft table over here. So I'll just say draft table and let's just say ZEO DMO. I can say ZEO travel manage draft. Now, as you can see, it is giving me a error with an warning. So I'll just put a cursor over here and it says that, okay, there is a draft table which does not exist, but if you want, I can create it for you. So I'll just say, yeah, please create a draft table. I'll just double click on this and system will prompt me with a pop-up and I'll just say, yeah, please create a draft table. Okay, now as you can see, even without us asking for anything, system just started creating a draft table for us. And these are the information which it carries that, okay, for a travel, I will store the information of a draft with the same relationship. And at the layer admin, I'll store some sort of administrative data for the draft activities. Okay, so I'll just activate this. You are not required to do any sort of change over here. It's just a suggestion. I'll just say syntax check. And as you can see, now the error is gone on the root view because now we do have the draft table specified over here. If I just go back over here, here you would be able to see that a draft table, I'll just say ZEO booking, manage, and the draft table. Now, as you can see, again, there is a yellow icon which says, okay, would you like to create the draft table? I'll just say, yeah, please go on, create it. Okay, and here I will just start with the table creation. Okay, now I'll just activate this and maybe we would be able to see. Okay, if I just go back and do a syntax check. Here, as you can see, now the errors are gone, but we are now getting certain warnings. Okay, now why is that warning? Because as you can see, what we did is we specified that we can do create, update, delete, which is for sure. At the same time, we specified the life cycle of a draft information. So what it says is the moment any sort of change is being done, there should be some sort of preparation of data. For example, a person is entering information called 1, 2 in the travel ID. Then before even that data getting persisted somewhere, be it in the draft table as well, you want to do some sort of additional information determination, or you want some sort of a validation on the data which user is entering, even without he asking that. Okay. So if you want that to be done, then at draft layer, you are getting the control while the data is in preparation mode. That is why it is called prepare. And that's where you can specify list of determination and validation you would like to. But that's what we'll be using this action after some time. Post which for the very first time when the user goes in the edit mode of the object page like we did. Okay, so the creation is also one of the edit. Okay, same way if I just go over here I can also decide to go in edit mode. So this edit information that you are also able to see over here uh, is going through some sort of a action. So whenever you are saying edit, ultimately a draft instance will get created onto the database. So during the draft entry is getting during draft entry creation, you will also get a control over here. Same way, whenever someone is saying that no, I don't want to have the draft information. I'm happy with whatever was there earlier. I want to discard all the changes I did. Then here we have a cancel, and the moment you cancel that, the user action, or I can say whatever he did till now, will be discarded. And the moment someone activates, or I can just save the final information, the information will be persisted onto the database. So activate is a step which is a final step in the draft execution. At that particular point in time, the draft table entry will be deleted and it will be persisted into the actual table. That's the action, draft action activate. Okay, then there is something called draft action resume. So ultimately, the moment someone goes in the edit mode and he starts preparing, so I guess in between the edit and prepare, a resume action will be called. So there is only call once at that particular point in time. Now, these are all the life cycle. This is all the actual actions. Okay. But now, as the create, update, delete is having a draft table, or I can say a draft persistence is specified, we can say that these actions are draft enabled. Correct. Same goes over here, as we have specified that this particular information, this particular behavior of this booking is also having a draft capability enabled on top of it. A draft base update and delete will also be done. But how about creating the booking? I mean, we are saying that even without the user knowing, or even without a user clicking on the final create, I would allow him to store each and every data onto the draft layer before even actual instance gets created onto the system. So if that is something that we are going to allow, okay, then in that case, my ask is that shouldn't we also allow the child entities information also to get created at the same point in time? Because as you can see, we are in the create mode, but here we are not allowing any sort of booking information creation when the user is in the initial draft version. Okay, so what if a person wants to prepare each and every data and maybe have a peer review before even considering it for the create. That's very much possible, right? So we would need some sort of a draft functionality while a child information is also getting created. Or while I am at the child layer, I would need some draft functionality while my parent information is also being updated. So for example, when I am saying that I am at the booking layer and I am entering one more bookings and booking will incur some cost. So if I'm as a part of it, if I am also having this total price getting updated, then also I would also like to have this particular action being done at the same point in time. Right. So it means I want that the booking creation should also, even though it is being done via the association, even though I cannot create any booking without a travel existing onto the database, but if as my travel is existing onto the database, at least at the draft layer, shouldn't my booking also be allowed to be created? Right. And that's the reason you are getting the warning over here saying in case of with draft, the composition booking does not point to self-lockable entity lock master and is given property with draft as a mandatory property. Okay, so here you have to specify association, but the moment you specify association, you also should have to specify something called with draft over here. Okay, now we are able to, or I can say we should be able to do the booking over here in the draft phase. Okay, same way my updation should also be allowed with the draft phase. But here I'll just remove the semicolon. So whenever you have curly bracket, I guess there is a I can say format you should observe that whenever there is a curly bracket, semicolon won't be there, and whenever there is a terminating statement, then definitely we might need some sort of a semicolon. Okay, this is what you should be observing. Now, post which maybe we already enabled, right? So I guess as you would have observed, the total E tag is only available at the header layer. Same way, draft actions are also available only at the root layer. Now we can activate this. Okay, so we enrich our behavior with the draft capability. Now let me just go back over here, cancel this. I'll just refresh this. Okay, now if I just go back over here. Okay, and if I, for example, start editing this, I'll just say my 1889 was 1890. Did you see any sort of draft movement over here? No, right? Because the we just define the information at my behavior definition layer. We never enable the draft on my projection. So for it to work, you have to enable the draft on the projection layer as well. Okay. So till the time you don't explicitly say that I am going to use this functionality, you won't be able to. Okay. And it gives you liberty that if you want certain things to be appear to start appearing on your UI, once it's totally ready, you can keep working on your behavior definition and don't project it to the projection. Okay. So for example, here, let's see if we do have two at the projection layer as well. Yeah, we do have. Okay, so I'll just say with draft. Oh, sorry. Here, each and everything will be used. So I'll just say use draft. Now here, as you can see, you are getting the same error that you want action edit, and likewise, you will get the same errors for the rest of the action as well. So we'll just start adding all those things. So I'll just say use action, and what is the action? So I'll just say edit was the first one that we just started getting an error on. Use action. So I'll just say discard. I'll just say use action. We'll just say, for example, resume. Use action, and here we'll just say activate. And another one we can say use action. So prepare is also an action. Yeah, it's a determine action, but it's an action. Okay. Another thing like we did over here, that association should also have the draft capability. So I'll just say with draft. Oh, with draft. Okay, and same goes over here. So we'll just use with draft over here. Okay, I'll just activate this. Now, as I do have this activated, as you would be observing, I'm not doing any change in the definition or binding at any point in time. All I'm playing around with is my views and my behaviors. Okay. And now if I just go back over here and I'll just go back and I'll just refresh this application again. Okay, now let me just start creating this. The key value, okay, yeah. There's one more important thing, but we'll discuss it, I guess, in some time. So here, I guess I do have this. I'll just delete this entry. Okay, I'll just create this. Okay, so maybe what was it, and I guess what is the purpose of that? Maybe we'll discuss it in some time. So for example, I'm saying that I do have this information. Now, the moment I say I do have a draft information, you would see that even without me asking, I would have a very nice created by, created on, and all those things being popped up. Okay. And here I do have a booking information also started getting pop up. Now I don't have a cancel. Instead, I do have a discard draft. Okay. So for example, I want to say that I would like to create another travel 2023-02. And the moment I do that, you would have observed that it says draft updated. Okay. It means the system already started storing those entries. So if I just go back over here and if I just check out the table, so I do have two tables over here. I'll just open this. This is my database table. Okay, and here I guess this is my draft table. So I'll just go over here and we'll try to check out this first. Okay, and now here I will say my travel ID is something like, oh, my bad. Okay, 2023-02. Definitely here I won't find it, but here if I just go back, okay, and here if I just try to check out that particular entry, 2023-02. So it just, okay, I guess it would start storing those entries. It will, okay, I guess maybe as it's key, maybe it won't, but let's just see. 2023, I'll just say 07. I'll just refresh this entry over here. Yeah, as you can see, other than the key parameter, each and everything will be persisted in the draft because key is something that will get generated while you only save that. Okay. So here, as you can see, the moment I did that, one more thing to observe over here is I'll just say customer, right? So if I just say 06, I'm not putting a curse. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just remove this. I'll just right click over here and I'll just say inspect over here for you to observe something. Okay. This is very important. So if I just go over here and okay, so for example, I'm going in a network call, which is, yeah, here I do have a network tab. Now, if I just go over here and I just say that I want 2023-06, done. Now, let's just observe the network tab, like what it is doing. You'll just go over here and as you can see, it is triggering the merge call. It is merging each and every data for this particular information because your key is something that it is expecting that will get generated at the end. Currently, we don't have any automatic key generation mechanism, and that's why we are providing it as an input, but definitely that won't get persisted because key never gets persisted, it gets generated. But here for each and every field, as you can see, the merge call is getting triggered for the customer ID 06 as well. If you start editing anything else, for example, you say, no, it should not be 07, it should be 05. The moment you do this, it will also update this. And each and every field will have a merge call. And this merge call will never update anything on the real one, but instead on the draft. So how the system is recognizing that I have to update the draft table and not the actual one. Because as you can see over here in the merge, there is something called is active entity. Okay, so this is active entity term is pointing out whether I'm talking about the actual instance or I'm talking about the draft instance. So if is active entity is false, it means it's a draft. It means it's not the active instance of the data. It's not the live instance of the data. Instead, it's a draft version of the data. When you say is active entity equal to false, when you say is active entity equal to true, it means it's a live data.